lesson. Let's proceed to the lesson intended for week 2 for Mathematics 10, and that is solving problems involving polynomial functions. Let's begin. Yan. So, to continue our lesson, we started illustrating polynomial functions and understand, describe, and interpret the graph of polynomial functions. And now we're ready to solve worded problems involving polynomial functions. Now let's start by evaluating identify me. This is on page 4 of your module. So sa page 4 na po tayo ng module 2 ng mathematics. Yan. So we're going to determine the leading term and behaviors, y-intercepts, and the number of turning points. So magpa-flash na po sa screen yung direction. I repeat, we are going to determine the leading term and behaviors, y-intercept, and the number of turning points. Let's proceed with number 1. Magpa-flash na po sa screen. F of x is equal to the square of x squared minus 4 times the square of x squared minus 2. So, let's identify the leading term. So, as we observe that our polynomial function is in factored form. So, ang gagawin natin, tingnan na lang natin yung degree. What's the degree? Titingnan natin yung may highest exponent. So, sabi doon, on the first factor, the square of x squared. So, what is the square of x squared? If we're going to expand the first factor, the square of x squared minus 4. So, ang magiging leading term dyan is x to the 4th. Tama? Okay, so it's x to the 4th. And then, dun sa kabila naman, we have the square of x squared minus 2. And which is also the same as the first factor. If we're going to expand, the leading term of this binomial will be the square of x squared. And that is x to the 4th also. Multiplying x to the 4th times x to the 4th will give us what? Okay, so the answer is x to the 8th power. By applying the laws of exponents, we have the same base, so we have to add the exponents of these two terms. So we have 4 plus 4 is equal to 8. So therefore, the leading term is x to the 8th power. Next, the end behaviors of the graph. As we can see, we have the degree. So, nasa leading term na natin kanina that our leading term is x to the 8th power. And we have an even degree. Therefore, saan papunta or ano yung end tail natin dun sa end behavior natin? We have an even degree. So, the end tail. Okay, where does our graph rise and fall? It is an even number. The leading coefficient is, what's our leading coefficient? Greater than 0 because the coefficient of x to the 8 is equal to 1. So therefore, we have positive 1 as the leading coefficient. Our degree is 8, which is an even number. So, magpo-fall tayo ng sa case 3, which states that if the degree is an even number and the leading coefficient is greater than 0, the rise, saan ba yung left niyo? Okay, so the rise and fall of our graph will be pataas siya. So, dun sa left, rise, dun sa right, magra-rise din. Okay? So, parang pa-W siya na ganon. Okay? So, ganon. So, that is our answer for number 1. Y-intercept. What is the y-intercept? Normally, kapag may given na function, polynomial function, to get the y-intercept, anong sabi natin sa previous module? The y-intercept is simply the point on the graph that passes through the y-axis. So to solve for y-intercept, paano na naman yon? We are going to let x is equal to 0 and then solve for y. So simply, ang y-intercept ng polynomial function is just the constant term. Okay? So titingnan natin ngayon, dun sa factored form, tingnan na lang natin yung the last term of our first binomial, which is the square of x squared minus 4. So what is 4 square? 16. Tama? Okay. And the other one, 2 square. Because the square of x squared minus 2. Yung second factor. So what is the last term? What's the constant? There is 2 square. 4. Okay? We have 16 times 4. Okay? 16 times 4 will give us 64. Okay. Is it positive or negative? Tama, positive. Kasi the square of 4 is positive. The square of 2 is also positive. Okay? So, the y-intercept is positive 64. Okay? Or, pwede namang shortcut na lang. Let x is equal to 0. So, 0 yung x squared doon sa first factor. Tapos, 0 din yung x squared dun sa second factor. So, ano yung natira? Negative 4 squared multiplied by negative 2 squared. Okay? So, dun din babalik yung explanation ko kanina na we have 16 times 4 is equal to 64. And, the number of turning points. We discussed this earlier dun sa module 1B. Sa module 1B. That the number of turning points is just n minus 1. So, if we already identified the degree of the polynomial, we just subtract it by 1. So, if the degree is 8 minus 1 is equal to 7. So, the number of turning points is 7.